The billionaire had everything money could buy, yet every night he went to sleep with the same terrifying thought: nobody loved him for who he really was. At 38, Adrian Cole owned luxury hotels, private jets, restaurants, and a fortune large enough to make strangers smile before he even introduced himself. But he had also watched people change the moment they learned his name. Women admired his lifestyle, friends wanted favors, and business partners treated his friendship like an investment. So one rainy Monday morning, Adrian made a decision that could have cost him everything. He would disappear. He would become homeless, hide his identity, and walk through the city with nothing except a worn backpack, an old coat, and a few dollars in his pocket. He wanted to know one thing: if he had nothing, would anyone still choose him? Before we continue, if you believe that kindness, second chances, and genuine love still exist, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories of compassion and second chances to you. Adrian chose the poorest-looking neighborhood he could find without putting himself in real danger. He rented a tiny storage room under a false name and began sleeping there at night. During the day, he walked the streets wearing clothes that had been deliberately made to look old and worn. His expensive watch disappeared into a drawer. His phone stayed switched off. His polished shoes were replaced with cracked boots. For the first time in his adult life, Adrian stood outside a grocery store holding a cardboard sign asking for work instead of money. People passed him without looking. Some avoided eye contact. Others stared briefly before walking faster. A few laughed. It was shocking to him how quickly a person could become invisible simply because they looked poor. On the third morning, Adrian met Elena Rivera. She was 32, worked 2 jobs, and lived in a small apartment with her elderly mother. Every morning she opened a modest neighborhood bakery before sunrise, and every evening she cleaned offices several blocks away. She had never owned a luxury car, never stayed in a 5-star hotel, and had no idea what Adrian Cole looked like. To her, wealth was something that belonged to people on television. Elena first noticed Adrian sitting outside the bakery in the rain. He wasn't begging. He was simply sitting there, exhausted, with his cardboard sign resting against his knees. She watched him for several minutes before walking back inside. A few moments later, she returned carrying a paper bag containing a warm sandwich, fruit, and a cup of coffee. She placed them beside him and quietly walked away. Adrian stared at the food as if it were something precious. He had spent years receiving expensive gifts from people who wanted something in return, yet this woman had given him a meal without even asking his name. The next day, Elena did it again. Then again. Eventually, Adrian asked if there was any work he could do. Elena looked at his rough hands and told him the bakery needed someone to clean the back room, carry flour, and help unload deliveries. The pay was small, but she offered him a chance. Adrian accepted immediately. For the next several weeks, Adrian worked beside Elena. He learned how heavy flour sacks felt when carried up narrow stairs. He learned how quickly a bakery became unbearably hot during the morning rush. He learned that Elena sometimes skipped lunch because she wanted to save money for her mother's medicine. He also learned that she never complained about it. Whenever someone came into the bakery short on money, Elena quietly reduced the price. When a homeless elderly man appeared at closing time, she packed leftover bread for him instead of throwing it away. Adrian began falling in love with her, but the feeling frightened him. He had expected to discover whether someone could love a poor man. He had not expected to discover someone whose heart was richer than anyone he had ever known. One afternoon, Adrian witnessed something that changed everything. A little boy entered the bakery holding a few coins. He wanted a birthday pastry for his younger sister, but he was short by a small amount. Elena looked at the coins, smiled, and gave him the pastry anyway. When Adrian asked why she did things like that when she was struggling herself, Elena simply explained that people remembered how you made them feel long after they forgot what you charged them. That night, Adrian sat alone in his tiny room and cried for the first time in years. He realized he had spent his entire life measuring people by loyalty, success, and usefulness. Elena had taught him another measurement, kindness when nobody was watching. But his secret was becoming harder to maintain. Adrian's company was preparing for its largest business acquisition yet, and newspapers were filled with photographs of him. Elena occasionally saw those articles but never connected the wealthy men in the photographs with the tired worker cleaning her bakery. Adrian had planned to reveal everything once he was certain about her feelings, but his hesitation began creating a deeper problem. He was no longer sure whether he was protecting their relationship or protecting himself from rejection. Then Elena's mother became seriously ill. The hospital demanded a deposit that Elena could not afford. She began working longer hours, sleeping only a few hours each night, while Adrian watched helplessly. He knew he could pay the bill instantly, but doing so would expose his identity. He considered telling her the truth, yet fear stopped him. What if she believed every moment between them had been a lie? What if she thought the food she had shared, the kindness she had shown, and the trust she had given him were all part of some cruel test? Instead, Adrian secretly contacted the hospital through an intermediary and arranged for the medical expenses to be covered anonymously. Elena never discovered who had helped. She only knew that somehow, at the darkest moment of her life, someone had given her mother another chance. Weeks passed, and Elena's mother recovered enough to return home. Elena was grateful, but Adrian became increasingly uncomfortable with the deception. He knew he could not continue pretending forever. One evening, Elena found him standing outside the bakery with tears in his eyes. He finally told her everything. He told her his real name. He told her about the companies, the fortune, the private jets, and the reason he had disguised himself. He admitted that he had wanted to discover whether anyone could love him without knowing his wealth. Elena stood completely still. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she looked at him with tears filling her eyes, not because he was a billionaire, but because the men she had trusted had lied to her. Adrian expected anger. Instead, Elena told him that his money had never been the problem. His fear had been. He had been so afraid that nobody could love him honestly that he had forgotten love itself required honesty. Those words broke through every wall Adrian had built around himself. He apologized without excuses. He told Elena that if she never wanted to see him again, he would respect her decision. Then he walked away, believing he had lost the one person who had ever seen the real him. 3 days later, Elena found Adrian at the bakery. She did not return because he was wealthy. She returned because beneath the deception, she had seen a lonely man who genuinely wanted to become better. She told him that she could forgive him, but only if he stopped pretending to be someone else. Months later, Adrian changed his life completely. He created a foundation that provided food, temporary housing, and job opportunities for people struggling with homelessness. He also transformed one of his abandoned buildings into a community center where people could receive meals, training, and assistance finding work. Elena helped run the bakery program there, making sure every person who entered was treated with dignity. Adrian eventually understood that his greatest discovery had not been finding a woman who could love a homeless man. It was discovering that true love was never about wealth, poverty, status, or appearances. It was about being seen completely and still being accepted. A year after their first meeting, Adrian returned to the same street where Elena had once handed him a sandwich in the rain. This time, he wasn't wearing a disguise. He wasn't hiding his name. He simply stood there beside the woman he loved, holding her hand, grateful for the day he had lost everything, because that was the day he finally discovered what truly mattered. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe to Ripple of Kindness, and leave a comment so this message of compassion can reach someone who needs it today. And before we end, comment, kindness sees the heart, if you believe true love should never depend on money, status, or appearances. Adrian once thought he needed to become homeless to discover true love. In the end, he learned something even more powerful. Sometimes we don't need to lose our wealth to find what matters. We simply need to stop hiding behind it. Because the greatest fortune in life isn't sitting in a bank account. It is having someone who sees your heart, knows your flaws, understands your past, and still chooses to walk beside you.